and we're about to have a rich conversation. You've heard all their titles. It's really also an honor for me, first to speak after Maryanne M, and now to be able to have a conversation with Maryanne K and Engineer Mutulili. Their titles are overwhelming, but let's just hear about their journeys. They are both from different sectors. So the objective of this panel was that we are from different sectors, but we are all showing threads of courage, the strategy. I think she also talked about strategy. I can see that all in your careers and leadership. So I'll start with just one general question for both of you. So Maryanne will go first, and then Engineer. You've both built such exceptional careers, in your industries, and your industries are so women underrepresented. I don't know, this is the way I can say it. I'll give an example. I was asking somebody to give me top women in supply chain, and they said, Maryanne, Karanja. And then they mentioned a guy, and then they thought, you don't want to invite men to your event? Because then it shows that somehow it's a bit underrepresented. And as much as men are very much welcome, I needed the space to have this. So can you share a defining moment in your journey that shaped your leadership path and challenged you then now to shape your growth as a leader?
I just feel that I had a series of angels in my life. So, and that's why I asked the question to Maryanne earlier, to say, if you look at your life through the rear view mirror, what are the things that have shaped my journey? So one, I feel that I lived in a very grounded home, and I realized that that is really a blessing. So my dad and mom were both present all the time. And my dad taught me a number of things. Number one is the importance of integrity, because I recall at some point when I was in standard 6, I did 844. So when I was in standard 6, he called me and he had a meeting with me, and he told me, Maryanne, if anything ever happened to you in life, always speak the truth. And no matter what, they can take a job away, they can take many things away, but they wouldn't take away your ability to think. Yeah, so that was the first one. The second bit, if I reflect on it, is how many of us did math and loved math naturally? I think it grew on me. And it's because my dad, for the longest, I could not get a sum wrong. So if I was studying, I got a sum wrong, he'd tell me, now kuja keti up. Then he would make me repeat that sum, and then he would coach me in terms of the next one. And when I look at it now, and I know I got straight A's in math, I didn't become an engineer, but yeah. But when I look at it now, I feel that was really the beginning of my understanding of excellence and hard work. So you work towards something, you achieve an outcome. And I feel that was the second piece I learned from this angel, who's my dad. So he's still around, he's in Eldoret. And then the other piece is on my mom just telling me all the time. My mom spoke a lot of Swahili, so she always said, tenda wemba nenda zako. So it's do good, be good. Be good, do good. And you can look at it in two different ways and say, does it mean that I have to be nice? No, she just said, do good, be good. And so when I moved forwards and I reflect on my career, because I'm now in supply chain, the thing that made me shift towards supply chain is that the first role I had was in accounting. So by the time I finished uni, I was a CPA, and therefore I went into accounting. And after, I think 3 months into the role, I went back and I saw the person then who was responsible for both finance and supply chain was a gentleman, a commercial director named Mark Smith. And I went to see him in his office, and I told him, Mark, I have a problem. So I was the typical Gen Zs we are dealing with right now. I actually had an opinion, and I said, I have a problem. I'm really struggling to work and analyze things after the fact. I'd like to be in the action. And he told me, okay, so you go, and if you find someone who's willing to switch roles with you, then you can let me know. And I literally went up to first floor, that was Unilever, in the logistics department, and said, hey, everybody, is there anybody who'd like to switch roles with me? That's all I did. And one lady named Amira raised her hand and said, Maryanne, are you serious? And I said, yes. And then we walked back downstairs in 5 minutes. And I told him, Mark, here's Mira, she'd like to switch roles with me. So are you okay with that? And maybe I'd say that's a defining moment, but it's really a sum total of all these angels who have made me who I am. Thanks.
Good morning, and I'm really glad to be here. I'm always happy to be talking to a group of us. What is my defining moment? I actually don't know. Like she says, I don't think there's one aha moment that comes to you to decide to do what you want to do. I finished the university, and I was caught, when I was in high school, I did Form 6, unlike some people here who did it for that just gives us the difference. When I was in Form 6, I actually did Form 6 twice. I did the first time. I didn't do as well as I thought I could. My dad got me Kenya Science, because I was doing maths, and I had passed well enough in maths. But I told myself, if I don't get a certain figure in maths, I'm going to repeat Form 6. I mean, I just said that, and I didn't get it. So I repeated, and I got what I want. So when I was choosing my career, I was told that we don't have enough women in BCom, and therefore, and there are no women in engineering. So you choose BCom because it's you have, at least they'll take you. In engineering, there's nobody there anyway, so they're not likely to take you. Of course, I chose engineering. I am a bit defiant. And anyway, I got that, and I joined City Hall. In City Hall, by the time I got my job in City Hall, in second year, you know, when you work with a department of a class, we were about 20. In my class, because we were in the double intake, we were 8 ladies, in a class of 100 of 32. So you can see the difference. Now, our earlier year, they had, I think there were 2 or 3 girls, and the year before that, there were 2. So in a class of 350, or in a department of 350, and I'm talking only civil engineering, when you're about 20 girls, one of you is bound to make you pregnant. So in second year, I got my husband when I was in second year, and I got my child, my firstborn actually, I got him when I was joining the second or third year. And by the time I was finishing the university and joining City Hall, I was already on my second pregnancy. So when I joined City Hall, one of the questions the people who were interviewing me asked me, why do you want to work in City Council? And in my innocence, I said, because I don't want to move around, because I'm a mother. I want to look after my babies within, a confined area. So I'd like to work in City Hall because I'm not likely to be posted out of Nairobi, where the rest of us were working. Then, at that time, it sounded like a convincing argument. I was given the job, and I was there for 10 years. When I was in City Hall, I was in the water department. So we have these developers. There's a lot of subdivision in Karanja and everywhere else. So somebody would come now in our department and tell you they want to do a subdivision of a certain place. And the older engineers told me, if somebody comes there, that's what we call a PJ, a project. So that's something private. So if somebody came with 5 acres of land and they want to subdivide there, you take that, we'll show you what to do. And actually, that's how I started now becoming a private consultant, so to speak. So somebody would come and tell you that they have this property, they want to subdivide, they want a road, they want water, they want sewer. And then you're like, okay, of course I can do that. I had no idea how to do that, but I consult my older people and we do that and we get paid some money on the side, and you're like, this is not such a bad business. So that is how actually I started my career. That was really, really by default. And within 10 years, I think I had known how to look for them rather than waiting for them to come my way. So at least by the time I was going out, I was able to start somewhere.
Thank you. I think because of sound, we have to manage the microphones here and there. And thank you, ladies, for sharing your journeys at a personal level from where it all began and where the mind shift happened. The next question to you, Maryanne, would be the most asked question, but if every answer or every person who responds to this question, the answer is always different. You are in a male-dominated sector, I would say. What are the challenges that you have been able to navigate here and there?
What are the challenges? How many am I supposed to mention?
Like
two. So I have to pick the top two. So let me put it this way. Is that first of all, I feel that I would explain the challenge as a challenge of leadership rather than a challenge of gender, a gender challenge. And it's because when I look at it, I'd say leadership is leadership, but we bring our individual personalities into the role. So women lead differently, and then men lead differently. So there's normally a different expectation depending on who you're engaging with. But I'll mention two scenarios, and this I've got, I think when I was very young in my career. One was when I was promoted into a senior leadership role. And I was working for this organization where the CPO, the Chief Procurement Officer for Africa, because one lady left that particular leadership team, and it was only one lady out of a group of 8. When she left to move to Australia with her family, the CPO then promoted me into the role. And what that meant was, number one, I was now my boss's boss. Now that was hard. Because I used to report to someone who reported to him. That person was removed from the leadership team. I was placed there. And then number two, I needed to understand how to navigate my colleagues. And there were very many men. I think there was only one other lady from Cote d'Ivoire. When he made the announcement in a hotel room in South Africa, a ballroom like this, we had our conference. And one person stood up. I think I was sharing this with the ladies over coffee in the morning. And one person stood up and he said, "Any questions?" And this gentleman stands up and says, "Well, Maryanne, remember, those who rise up the ranks very quickly also just fall." That was a first. I think I didn't think about it. I was in shock. Yeah, so therefore it meant I needed to see how to navigate my colleagues. The second one was, how do I deal with my former boss? Because now he reports into me. And sometimes these things will happen, ladies. Yeah, because one, the organizations would want to accelerate, inclusion, and they will look for the best women. So they will. It could happen to you. And the first thing I needed to do, therefore, was to have a conversation with my former boss. And I told him, "Johnson, this has happened, and I'm really gonna count on you for support. And it's because you're really seasoned. You've been doing this for a very long time. I really need your support." So that was the first conversation I had with him. And he was a gracious man. And he said, "I understand, and therefore I will support you." So I had one person who supported me. The second thing I also did was to identify from within my peers now in the leadership team whom I could relate to as a mentor, which is what Maryanne spoke to. And there was one Nigerian who was very good. And it's good, ladies, to be able to spot some of these capabilities in the teams that you're in. He was politically astute. So where I serve at the moment, they call it political agility. It's someone who understands the organization, who also understands what will work, and can also support you to pitch things and get support from them, for them. And this person was a second in command to my boss, so he really worked very closely with my new boss. So I talked to Arinze, and I said, "Arinze, I'll be checking with you, as I onboard into this role." And he was very supportive. So identify those particular persons from around you who can be able to support you as you grow in your career. I think I'll stop there.
Thank you. For Engineer Jen, you leaped from now the technical part of things and now moved into entrepreneurship. I find it interesting. I think I asked you this question before during our talk on the Women's Day, trying to focus on women in water and asking, what was that leap from now, long time ago, trying to leap from working day to day and now deciding to start your own enterprise and having La Femme Engineering?
Thank you so much for that. What was a leap? I I don't know. But before I do that, I'd like to actually respond to the challenges. And I will just quickly mention 3. One of them is what every woman fears: sexual harassment. I told you I started, before I left now to become my own person, I was still working in City Hall, and I got this job. And it was this school, they wanted a water supply. Somehow they came to me. I had done the first one. They came now, they wanted a sewer connection, and I went and did it. And just before, and you know those days how things used to be. I used to be given cash. It was a very small project, but I did the design, and I used to go for the cash in the person's office. And one time I get into the office, he was actually a white man. I get into the office, and he looks at me, and he tells me, when I got in, his wife was there, and then said, "Hi, sweetie, I'm going to whatever." So she went, and I was left with him. And this guy actually, should I say, katiad me. And first of all, I was absolutely shocked. I was very young. You know, that time you think blue is, white is white, black is black, gray was not a color for us at that particular point. So I was actually very shocked. And I went back to my office. Of course, I pretended, of course, I didn't understand what he was saying, but I went back to my office and I cried a river. I cried, and everybody came to, I used to have my own office. I went and locked it, and I cried, and one of the other engineers, Amira, came and asked me what happened. He had known that I had gone to that other place. And then he asked me what happened. I couldn't even tell him, until so much later. And, the question I kept on asking myself, what did I do? How did I portray myself? And that is something that we actually should always know. It is not anything I absolutely did. Of course, I got to know that much later. That is one. The other challenge we have is, as an engineer, we work everywhere and everywhere. You go and find you're working in the bush. Things have happened between last night and now. There are no facilities. There's nothing that is always a very, very big challenge for women engineers. And it's, you cannot tell somebody, "Oh, sorry, we can't go to site today." That's yours. You didn't know this was going to happen when you're becoming an engineer. So that is the whatever. So anyway, you're asking me how I leaped into this. As I said, an opportunity just happened on me, and I took that. And of course, without too much, foresight is very good. Hindsight is very good. It's actually bad. If I had known then what I know now, I probably wouldn't have taken the challenge or the leap that I did. I didn't know the challenges. I didn't know. I just got 2 jobs, and I decided I'm out with this. And that was good then. As you go along, the Milima na Mabonde, and you tend to stay in the Mabonde for much longer than you get onto the peak. So that has always been quite something. And as you get into that one, it's something they should always know. There are always valleys. There are always those hills. Decide whether you're going to bury yourself in the valleys or you're going to get into the valley and start looking the next time for the hill. I don't know whether I've answered the question, but that's...
Yeah, but I think I'm more trying to push into the idea of how did you anchor yourself, basically. The challenges are there, then how do you anchor yourself through these challenges?
The one thing, of course, is always to do your work well. You identify your client, you identify the niche of your client. For a long time, as I said, I used to go and look for those subdivisions. So somebody is doing this, you go and find out where the work is, and then you follow that. And then you look for the person. You present yourself pretty well. I can help you do this without sounding like a con man. I can help yourself. I can do this for you. And one person introduces you to the other one, introduces you to that one. As I grew old, as I grew up, then you realize those are a little bit mediocre, the jobs are small. You now look for a niche. My first niche was actually the Catholic Church. I was able to do quite a few things with the Catholic Church, and I was actually quite happy until I thought I could work for the government. And then, that's one of my first valleys. And I stayed there for so long, to the point that I actually had to stop working completely, reset, and go back to work for another 2-3 years, and then start again. Then I got a different niche, and at least so far now, with those ones, I know what not to do. It takes a bit of time, but yeah, it is, you have to identify what you can do best, and then stick to that. And of course, as she says, be authentic, and be real. Those shortcuts, they are very good, they are very fast, but my friend, the end is fast. So those shortcuts that we could take when you're doing work, that's what you should avoid.
I can see somebody, the MC was trying to tell me I only have 10 minutes, so before I open up for the audience, that means we have time for one question. Let's talk about clear thinking, especially under pressure. Lots of times you get into a professional setting and you have to know what to do at every time. I don't know if you want to share with us how you maneuver, Maryanne, on how you manage to have a clear vision or thought on how to do and what to do, and basically your tools, if any.
So, again, tough question, but I have, the rituals I have. I start the day with prayer, pray with the kids, then I do my own prayer. Then I do a third prayer, which is a prayer for the husband. Right now we are doing a novena for husbands with Father CK, so I do that one as well. But I also take a moment before I jump into the bathroom to remind myself. Those who've read the story of creation, it says when God was creating everything else, he said, let there be. When he was creating the human, he said, let us create him in our image and likeness. And then he made a man, then he made a woman because he needed to perfect. He experimented on man. I remind myself that he experimented with the man, then he perfected in the woman. So then I start my day. And then the second bit is that regardless which obstacle I encounter, then I ask myself, one, what problem are we trying to solve? What's a logical way to go about addressing this thing? Fastest, reduce customer pain, and following the governance, because my role in supply chain is around governance. So if I remind myself that, then I'm able to move quickly. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thanks for that. And then I would ask engineer, because of time, let's just go directly to your question around the fact that engineering is so technical. You've done maths. You just talked about maths, and it's the numbers, and there's figures, and there's A is 1 + 1 should be 2. You are handling a national project. You're so used to being technical. Okay, now and then you have to get into leadership. And leadership has different skills, yeah? You have to have communication skills. You have to have soft skills. I don't know, they'll say something around soft power and being a woman. What would you talk about that in terms of basically how you have maneuvered and brought out the leadership aspect? Because now you're chairing a whole ASEC, Association of Consulting Engineers in Kenya. If we understand what that means, you'd know that these are the people who are building our nation. So how do you,
Thanks. Yeah. Somebody asked Maryanne, what was that question that you were saying you're going to tell us when you know? How do you go around your day? You have children, you have husbands, you have work, you have ASEC, you have all those other things. There's something that, first of all, there's a guy above there called God who actually orders our steps. The one thing that I do, I know the balls that I cannot drop. The day before yesterday, I had 3 things that I was supposed to do. 1, I was supposed to go for a visa interview. Number 2, we were hosting Equity Bank, and a very high-level Equity Bank to come and talk to us. And then number 3, I had our EGM for the Association of Consulting Engineers. At that particular point, those were the only things that I could do. Luckily, my children are not around. They've all grown up and gone, so at least that was not an issue with them, because then that would have been a different dimension. But when you have this that has to be done, then this has to be done. I think that's one of the things that I maneuver. When we have, for example, sometimes I have the board of Gandu. No, I'm no longer a board member. Sometimes I have to support EBK. Sometimes I have, there's so many things to do. I think the first thing is to find out what are your glass balls. What balls cannot drop today? What can wait tomorrow? What can you delegate to this Maryanne here? What do you have to just let it go? We have, for example, tenders. When you're tendering, we don't get our jobs on silver platter. We have to tender. And these tenders have a deadline. They have to leave. They have to, for example, when they are online, nowadays, thank God, there are so many of them that are online. At least 15 minutes to, you have to start uploading. Everything has to stop until that is done. Sometimes you get these many good jobs and you're like, I can let this one go. You know, so the first thing is actually prioritizing of what you're supposed to do, of what you have to do, or what should be done, and as much of what can be done by others, you let it done by others. I think that's how I've done my, and as I said, somehow, God just allows me, like, I'm thinking on Wednesday, if I had many more things that were actually glass balls, I don't know what I would have done. He just gives you just enough for you to handle enough times. Of course, we all work crazy hours. Social, I'm very big on social. So on Saturday, if my friend is sugaring a baby and the other one is having a wedding and the whatever, you actually, my Saturdays are basically gone on socials. I will also consider this a social and a type. So I will do that if I have to work up to the next morning to cover what I didn't do on Saturday. Because social work, and I want to live with this, social, your biggest capital is not in cash. Your social capital, you know, in Kenya, we have insurance, we have all those other things. But until you have people, money will not do anything for you. So when I say it's social, we have our rosary groups on Saturdays, on Thursdays or Fridays. Sometimes you are so dead tired, you just go to that rosary group, you sit down and doze, and you understand. That is your social. So I try to mix all that up. Thank you very much.
Very lovely. Thank you all ladies for your honesty. I'd like to open the floor for questions, but before that, I like to summarize as well, because if you ever forget anything else they say, you'll never forget the summary. So in short, the last word you have to say today to encourage a woman, just a word or two.
We are women. You know, I'm a Catholic. There's a prayer that we say, I don't know it in English, but I've never even tried to think what it is in English. But it is, thank you, God, for creating me and making me, for giving me this day, for creating me and making me, and you made me a person. I always said, for making me a woman, amongst all the other things. Thank you, God, for creating me, making me, as a human being, making me a woman, making me a mother, making me whatever else, but I always remember myself, thank you, God, for creating me a woman. And I think as a woman, we have so much. You will not believe how, you have this basket that haijai, things come, mashidas imeletwa, so many things are put there, and somehow you're able to deal with all of them. So I think every time you wake up, every morning, just thank God you're alive and you're a woman, and then behave like a woman. Thank you.
So for me, if I was to say something, it's just be authentically you. What I find is that as women, we do a lot of benchmarking, like government guys. You don't have to compare your eyebrows to somebody else, or how you speak to somebody else, or where you are and when you're in that particular place with somebody else. So you need to be content with who you are, because only when you're content with who you are can you then work towards making an impact, because that would have been the second piece. I love the piece that Maryanne said, that there's lots you can do in Kenya, but there's lots that you can do within your own space to make an impact to society positively. So do that and celebrate that.
Thank you all. I hope you've loved the conversation. So now I just want to open up for the Q&A session.
All right.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions? I'm gonna take 3.
Okay,
one. Oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay, my 3 is expanding. 1, 2, 3. Oh, my ladies. 4. Okay, let's start with the 3 first. Then we can. I asked the other people who I didn't identify, make sure you shoot really quickly as I take the second questions, because I'll only take another 3, right? So I'm starting there. Can I get some help with a mic on that table? And there was one here, the lovely lady with the beautiful hijab. So first question.
Thank you very much. My name is Diana Oma. I work with Youth for SDGs Kenya. And my question goes to the engineer. First of all, I want to congratulate both the panelists for breaking down the barriers and showing that women are actually smart and we can take up these positions. But my question is to the engineer, because I'm really passionate about women in STEM. And considering you going for a course that you already told there are no women here, but that's what you chose. You spoke about your challenges about sexual harassment. This is something that most young women still face up to date. As much as we have more women going into STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, when you walk into rooms, even as from school to internship, you find that there's a lot of sexual harassment still going on, and you'd still emerge and show these people that you actually have the brains, you have the skills. But mainly my question is on how you navigate through and still work with colleagues that sometimes you feel do not respect you as a woman and sometimes talk to you in a sexual way. I ask because also in my field, there's a lot of fundraising that has to go into it, and sometimes you'd approach someone that could be a potential partner or a donor, but conversation might digress into a level where you don't want to take it. You try to be firm and bring it back on, but it's a lot of back and forth. So my question basically is on how do you navigate through this field and manage certain discussions around sexual harassment with your colleagues?
So my question is, right now, what would you say the one thing in supply chain that would move the needle? What would make a difference? What would be impactful right now in supply chain?
Let's just say I'm supercharged to be around so many women all at once. So my question is to the engineer, Jen. You said something about, if you can't do something, you can give it to other people to do it. So here comes, okay, like to me that's delegation, right? As an entrepreneur, aizunguka hapo a lot sana because I'm always like I don't trust anybody to do the job that I'm doing. You understand me? So I have to like go in the trenches, do things. I know I can pay someone to do it and it won't even break a bank. But my issue is I don't have that thing in me where I just trust anybody to do what I do. You understand? I'm a business owner. I make organic scented candles. I also make body butters. Like everything else, I do it all by myself. So
there comes a point when you have to do everything or you'll do nothing. Or rather, you have to delegate or you'll do nothing. As I said, when you have 10 balls on the air, trying to catch all the balls, you'll drop very many and very important ones. You have to learn to delegate. If you have an issue of trust that we all unfortunately do, try and train somebody. Try and have somebody, don't even try them, let them walk with you. Let them just watch you doing what it is that you do. I've realized some of the best people that I have, I don't even tell them what to do. In fact, like now when you're doing a proposal and I'm trying to correct a proposal, I don't even talk to people. I have a stool. I didn't know I had them calling it a consultation stool. You just come and sit next to me as I correct your work. I don't tell you anything. We don't talk. You just watch as I dot your I's and cross your T's. Because to me, those are actually, that is, many people know many things, but those little things are the ones that you want to do. So let somebody walk you, or walk with you, walk behind you, walk alongside you, and they will learn how to do whatever. And then you also have to decide what you're going to lose. Is it that money you're going to lose because you want to follow every shilling that everybody's doing? Is it a client you're going to lose? Is it your, the product that you're making? Are you going to lower the standards because you want to do it yourself and you have too many things to do? You have to decide and you have to teach somebody to do that. So that is, as I say that, I think we all have those business owners, we all have those big trust issues, but we also know that if something goes wrong, nobody cares who else was working with you, it's you. So even as you delegate, you make sure that you are on top of that. So you delegate as much as you can. the end product until you trust that person to do it, then you still have to go through that. It's a process. You need to starting on that one. You look very young, so start on that. Yeah. Diana, sexual favors. Let me ask you, how many sexual favors can you give? I mean, really. So this person, you want this person to give you, what is it, a fund, for example. So you succumb to their sexual favors. You get the next one and the next one and the next one. How many of them can you do? And how can you sustain that? I think the best thing for me is to say no. You sit, and at that particular point, you are so, you're like, you know, I mean, let them not think that that is even a thought that is crossing your mind. You don't even have to insult them. Let's just look at them. And I am 57, I'm going 58. Am I 58 or 57? I keep forgetting. But up till now, you still have those people who are trying to, and you're looking at them and you're like, oh, okay, you're back there. So they will, and let me tell you, they will keep on doing it because they think they are flattering you. You know, don't let those little buggers flatter you, and stick where you are. As I said, you're a human being. You might be interested in somebody. That's not what I'm talking about. But these are the ones who are trying to talk to you so that they can give you those favors. At that particular time, I think I was about 24. I sat in my office and really cried. But I was crying because I'm looking at myself and I'm thinking, God, I've just begun. How much more of this can you take? You know how many more I can take? You cannot come on. I really don't care. We don't discuss such things. So I think you need to stick to your ground. People keep on saying there are certain women who look like they are giving whatever. You're yourself. You're told to be authentic. Be authentic. And if you want to wear that high shoe and whatever, and somebody thinks you're doing that on their account, let them think that. Just don't confirm what they're thinking. So I think you need to be you. You need to know beyond here, don't move. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer, for that good nuggets. Allow me to just also add one bit on the sexual harassment, because Diana said, how do you work with colleagues who do not respect you as a female? One of the things I've found that works very well is that I contextualize. I say, if this was your mother, this was your daughter, is this what you'd want for them? So I have conversations oftentimes around that, especially in the boardrooms, because sometimes I get into meetings and I found that they discussed me. Before I got in, then watasema amekuja. Then I'll come and then I'll say, okay, so let's discuss the topic. And if they're still uncomfortable, I'll say, we need to create space where your daughters will find an institution that is still working for them. And that gets them to calm down a bit. So there are many ways you can navigate that space. So then my question was really from Anne. And I'm struggling with how to respond to this because it's the one thing that would move the needle. So I'll speak to it from a supply chain standpoint where we are in the country. And then if it's anything specific at a career level, maybe we can progress a conversation over a tea break or over the lunch break. But as a country, I'd ask that we seek to make an impact in the supply chain. Because if you look at the country, if you look at our budget is in excess of 3 trillion shillings. But the number of women who get opportunities to play in that space is less than 1%. It's still very male-dominated. So in your individual spaces, and this is something we're doing in the organization I serve, with the support of IFC, with support of certain companies such as Stanbic, Kengen, Diageo, Unilever, is to say, how do we increase the level of participation of the women-owned businesses in the supply chain? And my target right now is 30%, which mirrors government. But in so doing, you'll find that you'll go back and have conversations around, do our policies enable that? Do we have capacity building programs that will enable that? Do we have preferential award schemes still within policy to say when I'm awarding, if I have 2 businesses, one is women-owned, then I'll allocate majority of a business to the woman-owned, and then I'll build the support mechanisms to enable that. So that's one area I feel we stand to make a lot of impact, and I'll encourage everybody who's doing that to just adopt that target. Thanks.
How nice. Thank you all so much. I don't need to stand here and tell all of you why I do Women Today show. I think now you all know. If you come to the events, you see, where else would you get these lovely ladies to come? So let's give them a round of applause, please. Thank you so much. Thank you so, so much.